Right now, members of the legislature are able to vote on legislation that they have a financial interest in. As long as they disclose that to the ethics process, this would prohibit members from voting on any bill that they have a financial benefit from.
Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Mr. Chairman, you have 1 aye, 9 noes.
Hey y'all, just left the Rules Committee meeting where we offered proposals to try and establish more democratic norms here in our state, and they were rejected. Policies such as banning firearms in committee rooms, prohibiting legislators from voting on legislation that they have a financial interest in, ensuring that the speaker cannot unilaterally silence or arbitrarily silence members, and those were rejected, but instead my Republican colleagues have passed through the committee process. We still have to vote on it on that floor tomorrow, but even more extreme bills to give even more power to Speaker Sexton. It was very disturbing to see our state, slide further into authoritarianism and reject this vision of multiracial democracy that we've been fighting for. So we'll keep pushing. I have 17 amendments, starting with rule number 2. Strike the phrase "and may speak to points of order in preference to other members," and add "but may not silence or otherwise bar members from speaking" in line 2. The rule should now read in full: should a member find the speaker's conduct or behavior to violate House order and decorum, the member may immediately raise a point of order, at which time the speaker pro tempore will preside and call for a vote requiring a simple majority of assembled legislators to decide if the speaker's actions constitute a violation. Rule number 4, currently the speaker has the sole authority to order the gallery and the lobby of the Capitol cleared. This would change that to require a supermajority vote of the legislators present and assembled. Rule number 6, line 1 shall be amended to read: the speaker shall appoint all committee chairs and vice chairs, but committee membership shall be determined by leadership of each party, with apportionment being based on chamber distribution. The minority leader may appoint a ranking member on each committee, subcommittee, or special committee. This is currently how it works in Congress. The speaker does not have the sole authority to appoint members to a committee, but the minority party and majority party get to appoint which members from their party are sitting on a committee, and it's a fair process to ensure that the speaker cannot retaliate against members and strip their committees arbitrarily with the sole authority. Right now, if you pay attention to Congress, when members present a bill on the floor, they can have a display to show what they're talking about. I believe some members of your party, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, brought props and display boards to the committee rooms to kind of explain what was happening in the congressional proceedings. Visual aids may make things more accessible to members of the public. If we are able to present something behind us, a graph chart or other helpful information, it may be helpful, as we see is used in Congress. Rule number 74, I think this is a very important rule. Right now, members of the legislature are able to vote on legislation that they have a financial interest in. As long as they disclose that to the ethics process, this would prohibit members from voting on any bill that they have a financial benefit from. This is to avoid corruption. This is to avoid any type of appearance of impropriety. And so this would strike the provision that allows members to vote on bills that they have a financial interest in or conflict of interest in, as long as they disclose and say that you cannot vote on legislation that you're going to financially benefit from. This is in the interest of the people of Tennessee. Rule number 86 would be a new amendment to the rules. It would state that no firearms may be permitted in House committee rooms. I think this is in the safety of members of the committees as well as members of the public if we prohibit firearms from our committee rooms, which can be seen as threatening to members. If somebody comes in here with firearms, that is going to make people uncomfortable and feel unsafe. You have a security process, you have troopers. We don't need members of the public coming in here with firearms. And finally, Rule 87, nothing in these rules may be used to prohibit or otherwise prevent 8x11 paper signs or other small signage from being used by members of the public in the committee rooms or House galleries. As the chairman has clarified, that is going to be the practice here, but I think it's important that going forward that we do have this in some written down policy to hold each of us accountable to allowing members of the public to exercise their right to inform their legislators of their concerns and grievances.
Thank you, Representative Jones. And it was about 6 minutes, but you had a lot of stuff to go through there, so that's still pretty close.
Thank you.
Questions for the presenter on these? And again, on any one of these rules, there, just like Representative Garrett earlier, there are a number of here to go through.
I'm inclined to agree with you around the caucuses. When there was a time where we had various different caucuses formed here, and the rule did change to say you had to, submit to the speaker and the leaders on a particular caucus. And with that came some kind of support from administration if you needed, maybe if you need legal advice with that caucus. So I agree with you that there's so many things and issues that's out there that like-minded people should be able to come together and caucus around, because you're just really talking about ideas and things that are impacting a particular segment of the community or a particular idea or particular legislation as it impacts people. So I agree with you on that particular rule. And you're saying 3 members or more, as long as they consent, your own rules. Were you expecting that that group would, in determining this budget and stuff like that, were you expecting that maybe these caucuses could also get some kind of support if they need from, legal, if they need some type of advice or research or something like that as well with these caucuses?
Representative Jones.
Thank you. I think that can be a part of it. I just think that, for example, even as we're increasing in diversity, we have a Black caucus. What if we have Hispanic members and they want to create a Hispanic caucus? They have to get the approval of the leaders and the speaker, which doesn't seem fair. They should just be able to create that caucus. Or if you have a caucus that, I know some of my members on the other side of the aisle, we talked about going hiking or talked about nature. So what if we had a conservation caucus we wanted to create and then wanted to reach out to the research division of agriculture to figure out, what are some of the state parks that we should go to? Like, we should be able to create a caucus around points of common interest. They allow it at the congressional level. I don't know why this rule was put into place to restrict that, but I think it's also a way for us to build collegiality as colleagues. It's a way for us to see points of common interest and to create points of common, even with constituencies that may be similar. And so I think it's just something that's very basic, and I think that we should have that right. And I don't see any harm in allowing members to create caucuses without the permission of the speaker and leaders of both parties to approve of it unanimously, it says.
And Representative Jones, you must have been following along on what little social media I do. We love going to state parks. And so I think I've been to 30-something of them. And for anybody that's listening, for whatever it's worth, I recommend going to every one of them. There's one within just a stone's throw here. The Bicentennial Mall is a state park. So anyway, sorry, just kind of a tangent there, but that's something I hope we'd all agree on, is getting out into our state parks. Additional questions. Representative Shaw.
And may I respond to you, Mr. Leader?
Absolutely. Yes, Representative Jones.
And with that example, thank you for opening the floor. So say you and I both like to hike together, and we have Representative Sherrill here who wants to go hike with us, and we say we want to create a conservation caucus. Excuse me, not Representative Sherrill. Representative Faison.
It's been a little bit for all of us. It's okay. Go ahead. Representative Faison. Yes, sir.
And say we
Yes,
wanted
sir.
to create a hiking caucus. Under the current rules, we have to get the speaker's permission to do that. And say Leader Camper says, I don't like hiking. So if Leader Camper says she doesn't want it, then we can't create a hiking caucus. It just doesn't make any sense. And so I think that should be stricken. And so if we want to create these type of caucuses, we should have that authority as colleagues to do that without having some oversight from leadership if we want to do this as colleagues and as friends going forward. And so I think this is a very basic change that we could consider. And so I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you, Representative Jones. Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Sponsor, you may not be able to answer this. I might have to refer to you, Mr. Chairman. What is the penalty for me to carry? Because the sign says no firearms on the floor. So what is the penalty if I'm caught with the firearm on the floor as a state legislator?
That's probably going to be a question for law enforcement. I will say it's a prohibited area. The Court of Whole building does allow firearms for those that are legally allowed to have them. The Capitol does not. And I mean, it's a prohibited area. I'm certain there's some sort of a penalty.
I have personally seen members be armed on the floor, so I just wondered if there was a penalty or we had some exception to the rule or something of that sort. But I, without calling any names, bearing any blames, I have actually seen members with them. So I just wondered, that's come up a few times, and I'd really like to get some clarification on that.
We can definitely get that to you at some juncture. Again, this rule submission, I think, would clarify that for some instances. But I will reach out to some folks and see if I can get an answer to that question.
The only two I'd like to pull, just because I kind of saw a few heads nod on this committee, is to the provision prohibiting firearms in committee rooms. I would like to pull that one as a standalone vote, prohibiting firearms in committee rooms. And the other one I would like to pull is the one about forming caucuses. If those can be voted on as singular issues, I would hope that members of this committee will consider them and deliberate on those appropriately.
So, members, if it's fine, then what we'll do is we will be voting on a package, first and foremost, on all of these rules except Rule 86. And excuse me, Representative Jones, which was the other one? Or I should go to Leader Camper, I apologize, who actually made the motion to divide the question. Is it Rule 86 and
85.
85? All right, I heard an 85, and so Leader Camper, is that accurate? All right, so she's made a motion to divide the question on Rules 85 and 86. As to the remaining portion of the rules, you'll be voting on those rules right now. We'll be doing a roll call vote. A vote of yes or yay will be in favor of these rules being put into the entire package for this committee's submission to the floor. A vote of no would be for them to not. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Camper. Darby. No. Sorry, Camper votes aye. Darby votes no. Faison. No. Faison votes no. Farmer. No. Farmer votes no. Grills.
No.
Grills votes no. Hicks. No. Hicks votes no. Jernigan. Johnson. No. Johnson votes no. Shaw.
No.
Shaw votes no. Whitson. No. Whitson votes no. Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Mr. Chairman, you have 1 aye, 9 noes.
All right, thank you. And members, we will be now voting on standalone Rule 85. Again, same procedure. Madam Clerk, please take the roll. Members, just for clarification, it's Rule 85. That was formation of caucuses is this particular rule. Just as a reminder, I know we've gone through a lot of material. So, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Representatives Camper. Aye. Camper votes aye. Darby. No. Darby votes no. Faison. Aye. Faison votes aye. Farmer. No. Farmer votes no. Grills. Aye. Grills votes aye. Hicks. No. Hicks votes no. Jernigan. Johnson. No. Johnson votes no. Shaw.
Aye.
Shaw votes aye. Whitson. No. Whitson votes no. Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Lamberth votes no. Mr. Chairman, you have 4 ayes, 6 noes.
All right, members, we have one rule submission left, and then we have another presenter after this. Rule 86, the firearms policy question that Representative Jones brought before us. It'll be a roll call vote. And again, yes is a vote to make this a part of the package that this committee has voted on to send to the floor, and a no would be for it not to be. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Camper. Aye. Camper votes aye. Darby. No. Darby votes no. Faison. Faison votes no. Farmer. No. Farmer votes no. Grills.
No.
Grills votes no. Hicks. No. Hicks votes no. Jernigan. Johnson. No. Johnson votes no. Shaw.
No.
Shaw votes no. Whitson. Aye. Whitson votes aye. Chairman Lamberth.
No.
Lamberth votes no. Mr. Chairman, you have two ayes, 8 noes.
Representative Jones, thank you for your presentations today, and committee members, thank you for the
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Jones.
My Republican colleagues have passed through the committee process. We still have to vote on it on that floor tomorrow, but even more extreme bills to give even more power to Speaker Sexton to determine the order of how members can speak, how, if they can speak or not. You have to seek his permission before you approach his throne. They're acting like this is a palace or a country club instead of the people's house. And so tomorrow, the full House still has to vote on these proposals. But today was very disturbing to see our state, slide further into authoritarianism and reject this vision of multiracial democracy that we've been fighting for. So we'll keep pushing.